Well, good morning, Britain, from Washington, D.C. What are we, 24 hours on from knowing that President Trump had clinched that second term?
Still sinking
in the White House. There are tears and genuine fears been expressed on one side of the political divide, whereas on the other side, you've got Trump supporters absolutely jubilant and saying, "We told you so, why didn't you listen?" Well, meanwhile, Kamala Harris has told her supporters they've got to accept the result of the US presidential election after Donald Trump's historic victory.
In her concession defeat speech in Washington, the Vice President said there would be a peaceful transfer of power, but she said she would never give up the fight for democracy and the rule of law.
Well, President Biden's going to address the nation today. Sir Keir Starmer, meanwhile, one of the first world leaders whose call was received by Donald Trump, offering his congratulations. We're going to get Joe Biden's verdict on Donald Trump's historic win when the president addresses the nation later today. As you know, he's already invited Mr. Trump to the White House for transition talks, although Donald Trump knows his way around the White House already, doesn't he? He's got a good idea about how that transition is going to work.
He does, but there's a lot of work still to do in the coming weeks. In her concession speech here in Washington, Kamala Harris urged her supporters to keep fighting for freedom at our North American...
The statement, it's in January. We're only at the beginning of November. I'm not sure it genuinely takes 2 months to build a stage outside the White House. We wondered, didn't we, as we wandered around Washington, whether they're using those building works as a sort of excuse to keep the security barriers up.
Well, look, there's a huge wall of steel all the way around the Capitol building, which we can just see behind us here. Normally you can get much closer to it, and they are building the seating for the inauguration in January. But of course, here in Washington, what they were worrying about in the days before polling day was that if Donald Trump lost, would we see a repeat of those violent demonstrations which we saw in January 2021 when he lost the presidency to Joe Biden? Lots of boarded up shops and buildings, lots of police on the streets. That's gone away.
No.
It was much calmer yesterday in Washington.
It's been so quiet here in Washington, D.C. Well, while the Democrats lick their wounds, Donald Trump has spent the day in Florida, taking calls from world leaders preparing to select his top team ahead of his return to the White House for his second term as US president.
But of course, under the American system, he won't actually be sworn in to the office or re-sworn in to the office for his second term as president until the 20th of January next year. And our chief street says Sir Keir Starmer offered his hearty congratulations to Donald Trump when he called him last night.
Yes, the Prime Minister told the President-elect he looked forward to working closely with him across all areas of the special relationship. Our political correspondent, Louisa James, is at